Have you ever tried having one LLM help another LLM? Hi, I'm Mirko from Gamma Vibe, and I want to share this little quick tip with you. So I was working with Claude Code to implement some Python code that would automatically generate a video from a static image using a Ken Burns style effect with zoom and pan, plus some text overlays and audio in the background. And this Python function was using the FFmpeg tool for most of the heavy lifting with creating the video. And overall, I got the basic video generation working very quickly with Claude Code, but it kept running into one problem. To illustrate this, let me show you what I was going for with the video. So here you see an example with some dummy text. This is kind of a zoomed in portion of a landscape format image. And then if I hit play, you can see it kind of panning and slowly zooming out a little bit to create a sense of depth. So that's this Ken Burns effect. So this is basically what the correct version should look like. However, the code that Claude Code generated resulted in videos that looked more like this one. I'll hit play here as well, so you can kind of see how it's all horizontally squished together. It's almost like the whole image width is sort of super narrowly squished together. The animation is kind of choppy as a result of that. So certainly not what I wanted. Now, I went through a couple of iterations with Claude Code trying to fix this, and it somehow kept going in circles, where, it tried using the FFmpeg zoom pan filter to do this, and somehow it couldn't get it working correctly. So then it ultimately resorted to cropping part of the image and just panning over it from left to right. And that worked okay, but it wasn't the actual Ken Burns effect. There was no sense of depth. So the zooming is a pretty important part of this. And I could tell that Claude Code alone wasn't able to figure it out after we went in circles a couple of times. So here's where this little technique comes in that I'm about to show. This isn't rocket science or anything. It's just like, sometimes another pair of eyes can be helpful on your code. And that's true for LLMs as well. So what I did is I basically told Claude Code to document how far it got and what it tried so far, and to summarize everything so I could then feed it into another assistant, Gemini in this case. So here's the prompt that I gave it. Okay, the squashing is gone now, but now we're back to just panning rather than a proper Ken Burns effect that combines panning with zooming to evoke a sense of depth. I think we're going in circles. See, I literally told it that. I think we're going in circles. Every time you add the zoom pan filter, we get the squashing issue. I want to get a second opinion on how to get this working. Please succinctly write up what you already tried and what the results were, so that I can share this with the other assistant and see if they have any additional ideas to get the zoom and pan working together without squashing the image. And then Claude did a really good job writing everything up here below, right? So you see Ken Burns zoom and pan issue summary. It documented our goal, it documented the setup that we had, so the inputs, the desired outputs, so a portrait format vertical video for YouTube Shorts with a slow zoom out effect and so on. It documented what we already tried, so the direct zoom pan, including the FFmpeg parameters that it used and what the result was. Documented the second attempt, where we first scale and then zoom pan, and so on. So then I was able to just copy this little snippet here and paste it into Gemini. So what I told Gemini, and I have this ongoing chat with Gemini in the background. I usually do a lot of brainstorming with Gemini and then do the actual coding with Claude Code. So I basically told Gemini, we are now much further and the video is starting to look more vibrant. I've uploaded it so you can see for yourself. The one remaining issue is the Ken Burns effect. Claude Code struggles to get this working. We either end up with a horizontally squashed image and jarring motion, or a nice and smooth panning effect but no zoom. I asked Claude Code to write up what it tried so far. Please assess this and provide your suggestions so I can feed this back to Claude Code. And then down below, I literally just pasted what Claude had sent me. The formatting kind of got lost here. You see it's all just plain text, no fancy headings or anything. But honestly, LLMs aren't too picky about this kind of stuff. As long as the content is all there, that's good enough. So then here we see the response from Gemini. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can tell here, maybe the beginning. This is a classic FFmpeg headache. The zoom pan filter is notoriously bad at handling aspect ratio changes because its internal coordinate system is often tied to the input frame, causing that squashed look. You should stop using zoom pan entirely. The robust solution is the crop and rescale strategy. Instead of zooming, you dynamically change the size of the crop window and then force scale it back to 1080 by 1920. So it goes into a bit more detail here, how we need to oversample the image to a very tall height, and then we can actually zoom in and apply this dynamic crop effect and so on. It even gave some FFmpeg parameters here, explains why this works. And this is a solution that Claude Code alone had not tried, had not come up with. So I then just copied everything here from Gemini. Now, I mentioned earlier that the formatting doesn't really matter. However, with the code snippet here and everything, when I just paste this into Claude Code, it actually becomes just a big blob of plain text. So I wanted to try to be a little bit more helpful. So what I did is I copied it, I pasted it into a new Google Doc that preserves the formatting perfectly. And then I selected everything and I used this copy as markdown option from the context menu. So rather than the regular copy, which tries to copy it as this rich text, and that tends to get lost when you paste it into Claude Code, I copied it as markdown. So that puts in literal hashes and things like that for headings. So then here you see how I pasted this back into Claude Code. In this case, I'm using Claude Code in the Visual Studio Code extension, but this works just as well when you're using it in the terminal. And I basically told it, Gemini came back with a good suggestion. And then I pasted everything I copied from that Google Doc. And then down here, you see Claude Code congratulating Gemini, basically. It says, excellent suggestion from Gemini. It's kind of nice to see the different tools collaborating so positively together. The key insight is to use a dynamic crop that changes size over time, simulating zoom, then rescale the result. Let me implement this. And then, it went on like it does and just implemented it. We iterated a little bit more, but ultimately this ended up being the breakthrough that got Claude Code on the right track and ultimately led to the correct video that I needed. So just a simple little example. Obviously, this technique can be applied in a lot of other contexts as well. For example, you can have one LLM review and critique a design or strategy that was generated by another LLM, and there's no need to employ an entirely different LLM for that matter. You can have two Gemini instances talking to each other, or two Claude Codes. So giving it the right prompt is more important. So for example, when you want to get a critical review of a design, you might ask it to review it as a critical senior software engineer or something like that. And then it'll sort of put itself into that position and give you the feedback that that person might give you. You can even use similar techniques like this at runtime. So for example, I've seen a kind of dueling LLM pattern work pretty well, where one LLM generates some output and another LLM refines it. That works pretty well when it's kind of tricky to get the structure and the tone just right. And then this kind of dueling approach can actually work quite well. But that's beyond the scope of this video. I just wanted to share this little quick tip created sort of in the moment as I was implementing things. If this is useful, let me know in the comments and I'll create more of these quick tip videos. And as always, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.